Mark Warner explodes at Trump's trade rep Jamieson Greer over tariffs on Australia. Imagine this. America slaps tariffs not just on rivals, but on Australia, one of our closest allies, a country we actually have a trade surplus with. Let that sink in. We're punishing a friend who buys more from us than we buy from them. And the question Senator Mark Warner asked is the one everyone's thinking. How does this possibly make sense?
A tariff increase. Yeah, I believe that when all these global tariffs go into effect, I think most of them as of midnight tonight, tariff rate will be approximately 23%, highest since 1909. I believe that'll translate into the largest tax increase since 1968. We've seen the numbers of about $4,000 per family cost. Since Inauguration Day, more than $11 trillion has vanished from the market. And I will acknowledge that we got a little blip today, but I just talked to one of the senior folks in Wall Street, and he described today's market as a good day in hospice. I wouldn't use his name because, there are no good days in hospice, but that's kind of how I feel. And again, I know you guys are supposed to know more than all of Wall Street, but when every firm says, we're going to see increased chance of recession, and I've met you, Ambassador Greer, I think you're a smart guy, but I don't think just because this is the way Donald Trump wants the world to be for the last 40 years that he can simply will it into happening. In my state, the Port of Virginia accounts for $124 billion in trade. That amounts to about 500,000 jobs. Those are all up for grabs now. We got 800,000 small businesses in Virginia. These tariffs are going to wallop them. I had last week a guy in from a local brewery in Alexandria. The owner's name is Bill. He's got a triple whammy. He gets his Pilsner from Canada. He gets his bottle caps from Mexico. He gets his kegs from Germany. So already, even in advance of these all kicking in at midnight tonight, he's laid off 10% of his staff. Even if the president flips on all this, he's not bringing folks back. I mean, candidly, I had another guy in from who makes bourbon and sells a lot to Canada. He thinks it'll be a cold day in hell before the Canadians start buying American bourbon again, simply because our trust relationship has been broken. So I guess the first question I want to give, I'm trying to figure out what would be a question that maybe folks haven't asked. Let me ask you on this one. Australia is one of our strongest allies. We have the AUKUS relationship, which is key to their national security. It's key to our industrial base, so we can continue to build subs. Terribly important. Interesting thing with Australia is we have a free trade agreement with Australia. We don't have tariffs. We even have one of the few industrial countries, we have a trade surplus with Australia. So Ambassador Greer, can you explain to me how it helps America's national security or our trading balance when we have, and I loved your fancy Greek formula, which was basically bad math on steroids formula, how with a trade surplus, with this strong relationship, Australia got hit with a 10% tariff as well?
Senator, Australia has the lowest rate available under the new program. They ban imports of American beef and pork.
Ambassador, excuse me. There is a trade. We already have a free trade agreement. We have a trade surplus. So getting the least bad, why did they get whacked in the first place?
We're addressing the $1.2 trillion deficit, the largest in human history that President Biden left us with. We should be running up the score in Australia.
Ambassador Greer, answer the question on Australia.
They ban our beef and pork.
We have a trade surplus with Australia. We have a free trade agreement. Why? They are a incredibly important national security partner. Why were they whacked with a tariff?
Senator, despite the agreement, they ban our beef, they ban our pork, they're getting ready to impose measures on our digital companies.
With your Greek letter formula, the fact that we have a trade surplus.
We have a global tariff on everywhere. We're trying to address the $1.2 trillion deficit that Biden left us with.
I think that answer, sir, you're a much smarter person than that answer. The idea that we are going to whack friend and foe alike, and particularly friends with this level, is both, I think, insulting to the Australians, undermines our national security, and frankly makes us not a good partner going forward. The lack of trust from friends and allies based upon this ridiculous policy that goes into full effect at midnight tonight is extraordinary. I go back to what the market believers believe today is happening. A good day in hospice. I'm afraid if we keep these tariffs in effect, we're looking like an economy that will be in hospice. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Daines.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Ambassador Greer, welcome to Capitol Hill.
Mark, Warner isn't just venting. He's drawing a map of how trade policy, alliance trust, and real people's livelihoods get tangled when a government reaches for blunt instruments. The target of his frustration is simple to state and hard to justify. Why hit Australia, one of America's closest security partners, with a blanket tariff when the U.S. actually runs a trade surplus with them and has a free trade agreement in place? In plain terms, Australia buys more from us than we buy from them. That's the outcome every administration claims to want. So why punish a partner that's already doing what we say we want the world to do? Warner's point lands because it blends data with lived consequences. Families are already paying more, markets are wobbling, small businesses are making preemptive layoffs before the full tariff schedule even kicks in. Listen to the brewery owner he cites: malt from Canada, caps from Mexico, kegs from Germany. Three ordinary inputs that suddenly get pricier at once. A 10% cut to staff isn't a theoretical model. It's fewer shifts, missed rent, kids taken out of after-school programs. Even if policy reverses later, many owners won't instantly rehire. Once trust and liquidity are shaken, they act cautiously. That good day in hospice line isn't finance speak, it's a gut check. Temporary upticks don't cure structural damage. Now, the Australia piece is bigger than dollars. We're in a strategic partnership with them. AUKUS is not just a press release, it shares submarine production, tech transfer, and industrial-based planning over decades. When you slap a tariff on a partner like that, you're not just changing a price, you're changing a relationship. Alliances are glued together by predictability as much as by interest. If Washington treats friends and competitors with the same tariff hammer, allies stop future-proofing with us. They hedge, they delay purchases, they route supply chains to avoid U.S. exposure. In the Indo-Pacific chessboard, that hesitation is a gift to Beijing. The herein also surfaces a quieter but crucial lesson about who pays a tariff. It doesn't come from a foreign treasury. It's charged to the importer at the U.S. border and then flows into prices or margins. For commodity inputs, steel, aluminum, glass, grains, costs typically pass through. For capital goods, lithography tools, GPUs, fab equipment, the price impact cascades down the entire semiconductor stack. Warner's critique about not exempting lithography or GPUs isn't a niche complaint. It's a warning that upstream frictions raise downstream costs for everything from AI training to autos. If you're trying to onshore chips with TSMC and partners while simultaneously taxing the machines that build those fabs, you're running industrial policy with one foot on the brake. There's a legal and diplomatic wrinkle too. The US-Australia FTA zeroed out most bilateral tariffs years ago. If a new universal surcharge overrides FTA preferences, even if labeled as a national security or emergency measure, you're signaling that U.S. commitments can be sidestepped at will. Maybe there are sectoral disputes, sanitary rules on beef or pork, technical barriers in specific lines that the trade rep cites. Those fights are real. They happen under every FTA. But the normal way to resolve them is targeted. Case consultations, dispute panels, negotiated quotas, not a blanket hit that lumps an alley with offenders. Broad tariffs are simple to announce and expensive to live with. Warner's bad math on steroids jab at a fancy formula is the political version of a technical critique. Models that justify across-the-board tariffs often abstract away the friction costs, retaliation risk, compliance time, contract rewrites, supply rerouting, capital spending deferrals, and the long tail of "we don't trust you anymore." Those don't show up clearly in the spreadsheet, but they show up in real procurement decisions and hiring plans. Underneath all of this is a leadership choice. You can use tariffs as leverage, surgically, tied to clear asks, with off-ramps your partners can actually take, or you can use them as a worldview, permanent, universal, and indifferent to friend versus foe. The first approach is messy diplomacy. The second feels decisive but erodes credibility. Warner's warning is that once you normalize the second, you may wake up with higher consumer prices, a spooked investment climate, and allies quietly choosing other anchors. If you learn something here about how a trade surplus doesn't shield an ally, how tariffs really flow through the economy, or why AUKUS and supply chains make Australia a terrible target, don't just move on. Share this so more people connect the dots between here and room fireworks and the prices at their local store. Drop your take in the comments. Should allies ever be swept into universal tariffs? Or should exemptions be the rule when security cooperation is at stake? And if you want more explanations that cut through the noise and make these moments make sense, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because at the end of the day, democracy only survives when leaders are held accountable and when we refuse to look away.